The arrival of Demetrus Coonrod to the ranks of the city council in Chattanooga is I think, an exciting development in the life of the city. And that is partly because of her background as a person convicted of crimes, not just sins, but crimes, and having spent time in jail and having risen from a deprived background without God, without hope, without means, without food or clean clothes, and really lacking prospect in many ways. And she has made good for herself, according to a very fine report in this morning's editions of the Chattanooga Time-Free Press by Zach Peterson, and a beautiful photograph of her embracing at her swearing in a judge, U.S. District Judge Curtis Collier, who sentenced her earlier in her life, in her dark period. You might say that the period prior to her having been saved from the claims of her past and making good. The story, and as previous coverage, hasn't really indicated the spiritual transformation, if any, in Mrs. Coonrod, but it does suggest that she has turned from her past and is trying to fight to get past the claws of it that is constantly clawing her back, the damage to her reputation, the damage to her innocence, her virtue, her connections, her dealings with people who were involved in crimes such as robbery. And you might say, if you were going to just sketch out the adjectives to describe her past, you might say deplorable. But she has risen above that. And the reason, in my mind, that this is a very hopeful thing is that people in Chattanooga are very forgiving of it. They are not shocked, as they might have been in the 1950s or the 1980s, at her past. And partly, perhaps the shock is too late to have if one's going to have it, because she is already in office. And the report that the press, the official press of our city, the Time-Free Press, and you could even say Chattanoogan.com, and the television station that gave no account of her past prior to the election. And a couple of days after the vote, and 3 or 4 days before she took office, the Chattanoogan had a lengthy story about all of her criminal misdeeds, and a record, for example, of her troubled stay at a halfway house at the Salvation Army. And we wonder why we didn't have that before. But I'm in the press, and I was as guilty as anybody else in not looking into her past. But nonetheless, the press's false aside, had these been made an issue in the campaign, it could have been debated there, and perhaps it should have been debated there, but it wasn't. And now we have these stories about her past, and this one by Zach Peterson in the Chattanooga Time-Free Press, and on page 1, starts below the fold, is, I'd say, a very good report, though it does not really enter into any spiritual transformation that might have occurred in her life. Meaning, has God found her, and has God changed her by His grace and by repentance? Repentance is a gift and a grace as well. And if there's real repentance, Christianity teaches, there is a genuine reformation. There is a redemption. And you can have two kinds of redemption: one, thoroughgoing, personal, and intimate with God, and affecting the soul. You can have another kind, which is more pragmatic and practical, which says, I had a bad past, I've done many wrong things and sins, and I regret them, and I'm going to try to live past them. And that is purely of human effort and human struggle to overcome. And that also can be seen admirably. But it is still a question, and I don't know that we can answer it here on the David Tulis Show. And I do thank you for joining me. This is David Tulis. We are at AM 1240 and 92.7 FM Nooga Radio on HD 95.3 HD4 as well. And we cover local economy and the free markets in Chattanooga and beyond. And what we want to do on our program every day, this is my goal: to give a reason to be optimistic and cheerful, even though disaster is immediately ahead, right? There is a national disaster. And when we see even in her story, even in Mrs. Coonrod's story, a continuing national and state disaster, which is to say the state itself is the disaster. It is the cup of wrath, if you will, as a good preacher might tell you. It is a cup of wrath against us because we deserve what we have. We deserve the state of Tennessee. We deserve the likes of Governor Haslam, and we deserve the likes of Donald Trump. We're not as bad though as we could be. We are not so bad as to deserve Hillary Clinton, right? Had she been the federal president, there would be anger and bitterness every day. And now, though, the anger and bitterness of the common people against national government is you might say it's alloyed. It's not as intense as it could be, and people are willing to be open to President Trump as you might say, the pin on the top of the basketball being the federal Leviathan and the deep state, and the hundreds of trillions of dollars of federal obligation waiting to crack open like a rotten tomato, or a deflating basketball. We could put it that way to keep the analogy. I say pin because in the end, the president may get a lot of media attention, but he doesn't really change fundamentally the direction of the thing against which he's compared, and that is the basketball. He's a pin on the basketball, which is a very, very large machine indeed. And we all focus on what the pin says at the top, and the camera comes in close, and he's all we see. We don't see what's behind him or or the thing upon which he stands. That the basketball with its pimpled surface and its gigantic scale compared to him. Well, why you might say, well, why bring up Mrs. Coonrod when we have other important things to get to? I talk about Mrs. Coonrod because she has seen the evils of the industrial judicial complex from the inside. She still owes, according to Zach Peterson's fine report in the Time Free Press, she owes homeless and owing $12,000 in court fees. She returned to Chattanooga in 2008. So in 2008, she owed $12,000 in debt to the state, right? And part of her enslavement to the state. And now she still may have a couple of $1,000s that she owes to the judicial industrial complex, and until she's freed from that. And she has a job now in at a call center. She dropped a position that she'd had at Unify Ed, a $40,000 nonprofit group on Macaulay, lobbying for more money for government schools. Why I'm positive about her because people are willing to, they're willing to overlook the fact that she has a criminal record. And somehow to say that you're a felon, somehow to say that you're a convict is not as bad as it used to be. And I think I can explain partly why. And you, my listener, you've already answered the question. Okay, you've already answered why do we not view her as an evil entity, right? As someone to be shunned, as someone to be afraid of. Well, it's occurred just in the past 4 or 5 years, thanks to YouTube. And that would be the police abuse video. There are so many of those videos out there. So many, ones sometimes that we repeat at Nooga Radio, by the way. We're on Facebook. And we have a very lively Facebook page. I would ask you to like us, David Tulis here, with Nooga Radio. Like us on Facebook. Sometimes I watch a video and I say, this I think would be of interest to the viewer. Who follows us by our multimedia platforms, and these abuse videos are simply astounding. And the fact that a municipal corporation would allow a body of employees of the city to abuse people that way is simply astounding. How is it that the state has marketed itself so well that there's not a growing outrage against the very existence of police departments? How is it we can have police departments that allow that to happen? By armed men. How is it that we can accept employees of Andy Burke doing such things? Now they do happen here in Chattanooga, and we have the Chris Sexton slaying. That was by county deputies, the most recent example. But we've had in the Saturday editions of the Times Free Press, top of the page, page 1, a very fine report about the you might say the conclusion of the David Campbell disaster on the police department staff. roaring at 120 miles an hour past the Publix down on the North Shore, and other outrageous speedings in his police cruiser, right? A very heavy Ford Crown V, with special armor and protections and the like, and without real cause, no emergency, no one's about to be killed. He's not rushing to save someone's life, and he was fired. He was fired for lying, for false arrest. False arrest is arrest without probable cause of a citizen who was just walking, and this officer arrested him for absolutely no cause and charged him with disorderly conduct for not giving his social security number and not showing his driver's license while walking. This was the offense of this individual, Hanson Melvin. And there is a culture of perjury in police departments. I believe that's the case. Because we have here reported that, and Chief Fletcher allows it, and the mayor allows it, and Attorney General Neil Pinkston, the chief prosecutor for the state, he represents the state's prosecutorial eye, right? The eye of virtue in Hamilton County. And Neil Pinkston did not prosecute David Campbell and Jeff Ron for perjury in 2 cases of false arrest, and in one case there was a woman arrested, and she demanded to be indicted. She was not going to cop a plea like everybody else did, and the grand jury delivered a no true bill in her case. And then Hanson Melvin was indicted also on perjury, crimes against the citizen. Right, a false arrest is a crime. Okay, it's a crime, and in Tennessee it violates the oppression statute. I'm not sure why Neil Pinkston, the Attorney General here, the District Attorney General, has not prosecuted criminal acts by city employees. Remember, police officers are city employees. They represent the executive branch. They serve Mayor Andy Burke. Andy Burke refuses to impose reform. He refuses the reforms outlined in the Wexler Report of March 2016, which have 4 reforms, very simple points, 4 reforms that are being practiced throughout the country. Andy Burke is not about reform. He is not about the poor. He does not care about minorities. Because if he did, he would begin immediately implementing the Wexler reforms. And they are demilitarization and the proper use of cover, time, and space. I know that sounds awfully vague, but when you have a citizen about to be shot dead, about to be administered capital punishment, though he hasn't committed any crime worthy of death, right, then you need to have a reform. We have it now that city employees can kill citizens of Chattanooga, citizens of Tennessee who reside in Chattanooga, right? They have residency and domicile in Chattanooga, and other people who don't live here but who are passing through. They can be executed. They can be shot down summarily and extrajudicially. They can, okay, and it's allowed in the statute. And Andy Burke and the city council allow this to happen. They allow it to happen, but with Demetrus Coonrod on the city council, there is a chance that there might be a reform because she has seen the abuses of the system. She has seen the state at its very best, right? That is in its administration of the industrial judicial complex, which grinds down who? It grinds down the poor. It is a human and social management tool of the lower classes. That the Marxists would tell you that. That's a point where Marxist writers, I think, may have a very useful observation for us free marketers, right? Us constitutionalists here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. The Marxist analysis of police as a social management device, a social management mechanism, if you will, is not far from the mark. My own analysis is that there's a theological analysis, and there's a legal analysis, and a political and economic analysis, also a little different from the Marxist one, but there is nonetheless something true that can be seen by people on the left, but not by people on the right. I'm sorry, people on the right don't see the police problem. They really don't. Conservatives are lost on this issue entirely. They tend to be pro-police. I tend to be pro-sheriff. I am very much for the sheriff taking charge of the police function across the country. And we can't, we can want that and wish that, and that there's not really a big point in talking about it too much. But I think there is something that we can argue for, and that is a local solution to wrongs. Okay, local solution to wrongs are not the courts, and they certainly are not the criminal courts, where the police are there as enforcers of statute. Now, Basil Marceau's, I have given some very important reporting on Basil Marceau's claim. I have looked into his claims, and he says that cities do not have statutory enforcement authority, and police departments do not have legal authority to enforce statute. And he's making the case. He's making a case. In fact, he had a hearing set for yesterday in Judge Neil Thomas's court that's been delayed for a week. It's going to be next Monday at 2:00. Lord willing, we'll be able to cover that. But he may be right that there is no authority for police to enforce anything at all in the way of state statute. All they can do is enforce ordinance. It remains to be seen whether this analysis, which is rooted in the two cases, Chattanooga versus Myers and Chattanooga versus Davis, the latter from 2001. These cases say that there's strong limits through the Constitution against municipal corporations enforcing statute. Demetrus Coonrod has been at the receiving end of the state for a long time, right? She's done some things that clearly are crimes, and so she understands. I think she understands the analysis that we present here at Nooga Radio, and which I present, by the way, at Nooganomics.com. Nooganomics.com, our chief sponsor. That's Nooganomics.com, where you get a free market analysis. Now, again, make sure you check out the Times Free Press today. Very good story about Demetrus Coonrod and her struggle to establish her credibility, establish her, you might say, her rectitude, her civil rectitude vis-a-vis the state, and a past, a godless past, with her parents being addicted to drugs, and her siblings left without clothes, without food, to fend for themselves, pregnant at age 12 she was. This is David Tulis, and we argue for local economy here every day and the free market. Love your neighbor, buy local. We suggest love your neighbor and buy local. The Feds, the Yankees, are passing $1 trillion budget. And Ron Paul, our only national statesman, Ron Paul, proposes that the government should be allowed to shut down, and that the unconstitutional intervening bodies from the executive branch in Washington be shut down. They be shut down. And the reason we keep having them is that Congress passes these omnibus spending bills, which no one is allowed to read. They're crafted at the last minute. You have this government shutdown Friday, Saturday morning at 12:01 a.m. And so you have the spending bill that no one can read to keep the government open for another week. And it's just run by a few Congress people and their staff, and rush to the floor. And it's a dysfunctional process, Ron Paul says. And why does it happen? Well, he says it's the result of government growth. It is simply unrealistic, he says, to expect Congress to fund the modern Leviathan via a lengthy and open process that allows individual members to have some say on how government spends their constituents' money. The dysfunctional spending process benefits the many politicians eager to avoid accountability for their spending. And they can say they had to vote for it, right? I mean, you're going to have that from Chuck Fleischman. He had to vote for this, or the government would shut down. A great disaster, the federal government would shut down. Local solutions see these things kind of on the periphery, right? But what we want to look at is, what are the solutions locally? I think, as we've argued before, that we need to have, in the way of justice, we need to have local courts. And who better to found local private arbitration services and private local courts than Christian people in their churches? In churches, presumably, one has the wisest and most godly men. And I would say we need to start with the men. The men need to take charge, and women can certainly be involved in this process. But men need to have some testosterone. Men need to have some hair on their chest, and they need to stand up. They need to stop being feminized. They need to stop letting women do things that are really their responsibility. That's why you, my listener, are a guy, because I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you and people like you. Maybe. I mean, I know you're here. Maybe there's somebody else listening too. And that person, by the way, might want to hear about your business. If you're a businessman or run a nonprofit organization or a charity or something, make sure that the other person listening to this show can hear about you. Call me, David Tulis, here at the radio station or contact me through Nooganomics.com. We are Nooga Radio, and the solution for offenses and wrongs that are judicial and binding, that bring healing in the land and the region, you might say, around Chattanooga, will be private solutions, private courts where godly men who understand equity, right, who have read the book of Leviticus, who have read the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Genesis, there where there's this sense of God's law, God who is always just, by definition just, his law, his exposition of the public claims of his realm. That's the Old Testament. There is where these standards are described in detail as brought about it as enforced in the Old Republic. Well, this is David Tulis. We've got a lot to talk to. We're going to hear from Cindy Deering of Cindy's Choice. She once was homeless, but now she's an entrepreneur, and she's starting a terrific business which will help small outfits in their marketing. It's shared marketing expertise. David Tulis, Nooga Radio.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. The Hickson man says he came home and discovered two men trying to steal his TV. Javars Crutcher admitted to robbing another man's house with a juvenile who broke in through the sliding glass door in the rear, and the homeowner caught them in the act. Crutcher, who's 23, has been charged with aggravated robbery. A body that was found 4 weeks into its decomposition has been identified as belonging to Amy Cantrell, who's 49. A man found her body on Lookout Mountain while out hunting. Despite being missing for 4 weeks, she was not reported as missing to authorities. Her car was found on private property and was towed about 1 mile from where her body was found. Medical examiners trying to determine the cause of death. The National Park Service has confirmed the body of Jackson Stanford, the missing Macaulay kid, has been found in the Colorado River near the Grand Canyon. A 4-year-old child started a duplex fire by playing with a cigarette lighter in her bedroom on Jeffrey Lane. The fire department is going to rule the cause of the fire as accidental. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. Fox News Talk 1240.
Expect lots of sunshine and great-looking weather for your Tuesday. After this cool start, highs later on back into the upper 70s. Tonight, clear, comfortable again, lows 50 to 53. Now for your Wednesday, morning sunshine, warmer highs 80 to 83 with scattered showers and storms returning Thursday. No matter what home improvements you're working on, start with Lowe's. For great prices on everything for your lawn, garden, or kitchen and bath improvements, all projects have a starting point. Start with your neighborhood Lowe's. And I'm Swarsheen 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back. The field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chucked him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Fox News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
I've been a customer at S&S 14 years. It's way out of my way, but I'm well treated. I believe what I'm told. Price is reasonable. David Tulis here. Make an S&S appointment today. This week, get $50 off any 30,000-mile service or timing belt repair. And get a free combat knife as a gift. S&S Auto Repair specializes in Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. 6-time winner of Best of the Best award in the Times 3 Press. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
I've got a $10 bill for you at the best paint store in Chattanooga. David here. Big savings in exterior stains. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. More than a paint store. Bring up $100 on your next upgrade. Plunk down just $90. Save on all outdoor stains in stock at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. Prolix Sickens. Benjamin Moore, Flood, Sanson, Richards. 10% off through May 13. Jim and his team are here to help and advise and to help you hold on to your money. 5529 Hickson Pike. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. ChattanoogaPaint.com.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I do thank you for giving me just a couple minutes of your time here at Nooner Radio. This is David Tulis, AM 1240 and FM 92.7. We cover local economy and the free markets, and we're always trying to find ways to help you, the listener, whether you're stuck in a job and you're just dreaming of getting out, you're dreaming of somehow finding a way to have a second income stream because you deserve it, right? You deserve that income stream because you're providing a good or service to first a single client, then a second client, and then a third. And as you do well and keep thinking about your client, how you can help that person, which is a very gracious thing to do, you are having money coming in and paying for your expenses. And then finally, you have money with which to expand your operation and reach out for yet more customers. To help you in that, we have Cindy Deering of Cindy's Choice here in the studio with a very interesting idea for a business. She has started a business. She has 2 clients, and it is effectively collective marketing, and she helps manage marketers for you. And what she does is allow you to have outreach in the various media that are popular today. We have legacy media, we have new media, and she does that and saves you having to hire somebody to handle marketing, which is to say outreach, finding your customer, getting your name out there, getting impressions for your brand, your service, your person, even your face, perhaps. Cindy, what is Cindy's Choice about, and how can you help my listener who is, let's say, in that position I mentioned, who is thinking of starting a business, has already made some efforts to research his market? How can you come along at an early stage of his business to help him?
Well, first of all, David, thanks for having me on. And a key part of having a business is having a pipeline. You do not have, if you don't have a client, then you're not in business. And that's what I help with. And I do it through collective marketing management. We're in a shared.
It sounds very dense. What is it?
Yes, we're in a shared economy now. And it works for businesses just as well as it works for the consumers. It's going crazy with the Airbnb and the Uber market and so forth like that. Well, businesses can share an employee. It's done with bookkeeping. It's done in legal. We can do that in marketing. And I have personal experience. I prove the concept many times. It's something that's done a lot, but I'm creating a network so that this can just go on with infinity networking to help businesses. It can cut costs by more than 60%, well more than 60% for a business. That's a crucial thing, David, is when it's easy to start something. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I can start a business like that. I can get myself busy. But when you want to go to that next level, when you have to take on the expense of an employee, that's huge. And most businesses That's why 30% of businesses are at that break-even mark. 30% are losing money, but that 30% break-even mark is too hard to add that employee. It's very costly.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Cindy Deering. Give me an example. Present to my listener a theoretical business person who has the you might say the problem of marketing and dealing with that problem prior to your proposal. Where are his expenses? What are his troubles? And then, all right, that's the problem. And then here you come along, Cindy Deering, with Cindy's Choice, with the solution. Describe the status quo before your proposal comes to the floor.
Well, there's many examples, but it comes down to duplicating yourself. That's normally how you grow a business, especially when you're in the marketing role of your business. When a business owner starts out, they're out there in the community, building their pipeline, cultivating relationships, which is crucial. Nothing beats relationships. But as they get busier and they have to focus more on their business and on their employees, they have to pull away from the pipeline and the relationship building and cultivating. And that's when things start, when they're needing the business the most, because now they have more employees and the more business to support, then it starts fading because they pulled their time away from the pipeline. Guess what happens when you pull yourself away from the pipeline?
And that's the marketing pipeline.
Yes,
where
the
your
marketing.
voice, you're the owner's voice is getting out there in various media.
Yes. In the media, in the community, whether you're involved in the Chamber of Commerce or organizations or whatever your strategy is, when you start pulling away from those markets, people forget about you. It doesn't matter how much they like you, how much they trust you and love your product or service. When it's out of sight, out of mind. The market is so competitive now. If you're not out there in front of people, there's 10 others lined up to take that relationship away from you. And
when my listener goes to LinkedIn, Cindy Deering, he sees all the people involved in social media marketing. There seems to be every handsome or pretty young face out there can offer you this service. Do you do that? Are you the Facebook expert, Cindy? Are you the Twitter expert? Where are your skills exactly?
No, I'm the relationship, the face-to-face expert. Technology has made marketing very complicated, and I'm not knocking technology. We need it. It's awesome. But it all starts with relationships. David, nothing trumps relationships. And we're getting away from that. This society is getting dangerously,
is that bad?
It's very bad. We are getting dangerously isolated. And this is in personal as well as in business. Everybody's about getting on technology. Again, not knocking technology. It's awesome. We need it. But the core of your business, everything should start with very vital relationships. And then the technology and the media and all that should magnify that. It should amplify that. But we got to get back to the face-to-face, to knowing people. I mean, you can have a campaign of billboards all over town. You can blast on the radio. You can have TV commercials. But when it comes time to do business, if you've got that relationship with that one person that you know and trust, you know they're going to deliver, and they're cultivating and putting the time in to keep a relationship with you, you're going to call them every time.
Well, let's say my listener runs a garage. He's got 3 or 4 plants in the county, 3 or 4 little garages. He's hired a marketing and media person who had let's say a radio background. Young person, let's say in his 30s, but there's an expense there, and so he's saying, well, I'm not sure about my results. Engaging this person who's handled my buys, if you will. What does Cindy Deering have to offer? How would you say to that businessman with that who's already had that experience and is not sure of the results of his spending? How do you come to this person and say, I have something different? Where is the difference, and how can that man who runs the garages come to you for help?
Okay, he's running garages. Like I lost you there.
Well, let's say he runs oil change, tire change.
Oh, okay,
places.
okay, I gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, all right. We all know who that is. That's when you need an oil change or something like that. Most of us will just go where it's convenient, unless you have a relationship with someone that takes good care of you. It's the coupons might get you there the first time, but it's how you get treated when you're there and how that relationship is cultivated that keeps you there. When you're too busy, I mean, that's what it takes. When you're too busy to go and cultivate those relationships, you need live people, the face of your business out there, making sure that these relationships are cultivated, that these people, you're earning the respect and the awareness of the community so people want to do business with you. You don't even have to sell anything then. If you're out there and you're contributing in the community, you're on nonprofit boards or donating time to different nonprofits and so forth, you're out there earning and demonstrating who you are. But a business owner can't do that. But it's very expensive to have someone do that for you. And that's what I provide. I provide that person to get out there and demonstrate the respect and awareness that demonstrates the type of businesses that we are representing. So
your associate in Cindy's Choice, your associate makes those connections. Does your associate help? Explain a little bit more about what you or your associates would do on behalf of the garage owner. How are you going to do the work that the earlier consultant did for, I don't know, $1,000 a month or whatever?
Right. Well, the average employee cost in Tennessee is around $40,000 a year. When you add to the taxes, the insurance, the training, the management, then you add marketing expenses on top of that, David. That number, very conservatively, nobody balks when I say that's a $75,000, $80,000 a year investment for that. And actually in Chattanooga, the salary rate is lower. You're paying about $75,000, $80,000 for a $30,000, $35,000 a year employee. How many businesses can afford that to get out and represent your brand full time? By Cindy's Choice, grouping businesses that complement each other and have the same target market. And then we can provide one liaison that gets out and cultivates relationships on behalf of that whole group of businesses. The key thing to this is an idea that a lot of businesses have. Who's going to manage that? That's what Cindy's Choice does. We manage it, and then the cost is reduced by more than 60% because they're paying a very reduced rate. Plus there's no expenses. There's no commissions. There's no taxes to fool with. No management issues. It's completely taken off their plate. Completely.
So let's say, do you have the car garage field sewn up yet?
No.
Okay. Well, let's say that's one, and I run this garage, and I come to you. Okay. So now that we've met, I've met you, Cindy Deering, and I've met maybe the associate who might handle my account. So your goal then is to find other garages, and that person who handles the garage sector, right? That person then does what? How do I deal with that person in the future if we engage you?
I lost you, Dave.
Well, let's say you're trying to gain access to certain markets, right? So the car garage market, there are dozens of garages in Chattanooga, and I have met you, and I'm in that field. So I become your customer. And the goal then in the future is for your associate who works with me in my marketing to have other garages as well, whom she serves or he serves as well.
No. This is businesses that it won't be competitive businesses. It would be an exclusive vertical. And so the other businesses in the vertical with the auto garage would be things that complement that service. So maybe it would be, let's see, what would automotive fit with? It could fit with auto, let's say, anything a homeowner.
Accounting?
Yes. Well, no, if I would think, you could fit automotive in a B2B, a business to business vertical, or a business to consumer vertical. And each vertical is customized. So it would a lot depend on that garage owner. It'd be like, well, which market are you looking to pull from? And a lot of them, they have fleet services. We want to be a part of a B2B. We want to focus on fleet services. Then you would group them with an accountant or legal services, or printing, different things like that other businesses would use.
So vertical is your word for the hub that your associate in Cindy's Choices would be overseeing, right?
Yes.
And your job is, of course, managing these associates who sort of integrate these groups that are not it's not competitors. It's not groups of competitors, but groups of potentially complementary businesses. And that associate in Cindy's Choice is handling the marketing for all of those people.
Yes. That's my job, is to manage it. I'm duplicating myself, David. This is something I've always done. I've always grouped businesses and had success and was able to save them money by doing so. And now I'm the one that's going to duplicate myself in that role and then manage it.
Now, your story is a very unusual one, Cindy. You told me that you've been homeless 3 times. Say something about that and a little bit about your history as an entrepreneur, Cindy.
Probably homeless more than that, David, but I had a rough beginning as a child. So I was on my own, paying rent in my own apartment when I was 15. I was actually paying rent from the age of 13 to a single mother that callously neglected me, and nobody judged my mama. She had her own issues. God bless her. But there were many times as a teenager that I did sleep in my car and was in some compromising situations. And then throughout my life, there's been other times when you get a start like that, you don't make good decisions. And I ended up in bad relationships and had to get away whatever way that I could, which put me on the streets. But most recently, I had just vowed not to get out of that cycle. And I didn't know it at the time, but there's a deeply rooted fear of being homeless and that's the reason you choose the wrong relationships. And I was led here to Chattanooga and got here, really thought I was supposed to go back to Texas, but just knew I was supposed to be here. A lot of people have that story. There's a lot of people, something's up here. There's a lot of people drawn to Chattanooga. And I ran out of money while I was here and ended up sleeping I was on the street, sleeping in my truck on Walnut Street, right down from the bridge for a good month at that time, right here in Chattanooga for 3 months straight. A real raw experience. I went without food. You want to stay invisible. You don't want other homeless people to know that you're homeless. But what that did for me, David, I didn't choose to be homeless, but I chose to take the path to help me face my deepest fear. And it led me there. I knew I was quite honestly, I was following Jesus. I knew that I was right where God wanted me to be. And I faced that fear. As scary and as hard as it was the most I ever felt protected in my entire life. And I faced that fear, and now there's nothing that's going to stop me.
There seems, Cindy Deering, to have been a remarkable change of prospect. You drive a nice vehicle. You're very well dressed. You have some liquidity, some means of paying for your expenses. How does that happen, briefly? And how are you capitalizing your business? Where are you getting the funding to pay your gas, to run your cell phone, and so on?
I am very accomplished at starting with nothing, David. I started my construction business, my commercial construction business in Houston, Texas, with no capital and no contacts. And that's what I'm doing here in Chattanooga. This is an important testimony for people. I'm telling you, it is not that hard to start a business. And that's something that I'm going to be able to help people with. I'm starting with absolutely nothing. I was homeless summer 2015. I was homeless longer than that because couch surfing, people don't realize there's a lot of people out there that are homeless. They're just couch surfing. They're not on the streets. I was couch surfing up until very recently. Once you get a paying client and you're at work, you can start making things turn around. But when you're new to an area, you've got to get out and you've got to earn that respect and that awareness.
Well, what are the basic fundamentals of an arrangement? How does my listener, if he wants to find out more about you, how does he become a customer? What is the rate? What does the relationship look like?
The rate is customized per vertical. It's all has to start with grouping the businesses. This is it's a volume based business. We've got to group the businesses that complement each other and have the same target market. And it's Cindy's choice, David. It's not a list. So I have to be ultra selective. These have to be really reputable businesses, reputable people that we do business with. Again, because this is Cindy's choice. I'm taking a huge risk in representing people. A lot more risks than they are than coming on board with me, because it's I've got a proven track record of success with building relationships.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Cindy Deering, who runs Cindy's Choice, which, as she describes it, is a collective marketing management service where there are groups of businesses that are not competing, and they all kind of help each other and feed each other. And she is involved in each little vertical, as she describes them, in each little pod of managing the person involved in the marketing efforts of that group. So how a group can be how small and how large, Cindy?
A group can be as small as 5 or 6 businesses. It could be as large as 15 or 20. I managed accounts. I've worked for HD Supply in the past and other large companies. I imagine I'd manage 60 accounts. So there's really no limit on how many businesses benefit.
Your past in the past, you've worked in Houston. You're the founder of Victory Contractors LLC, and you've also done multi-level marketing and worked in advertising. Is not multi-level marketing, Cindy Deering?
No. The only thing it has in common with that is the relationship focus.
We're brought to you by Window Depot of Chattanooga.com. That's Window Depot of Chattanooga.com. This is David Tulis, and we're also brought to you by Boyd Speedway, where there are exciting doings, noisy, very fast-moving, dusty, and thrilling, colorful movements about the track every Saturday. And try something different. Go to Boyd Speedway. It's not a secret here, but many people have not had the delight of being in this very Americana, very southern place just south of the border. We cover local economy here, David Tulis, and we suggest that you love your neighbor and buy local, and be prejudicial. That's my argument here: is have a prejudice, and that would be an unspoken, often perhaps unexamined favor of your local supplier, your local restaurant, your local brand, as opposed to those that come to us from far places with shareholders in Taiwan and whatnot in the national sector. Well, Cindy, how can my listener get a hold of you?
I can be emailed at cindy@cindyschoice.com. Can I get my phone number?
Sure, go ahead.
Just give me a call, 423-661-4445. That number again, 423-661-4445, and Cindy@cindyschoice.com.
And so this is a startup. It's a brand new business, and you've already got customers, and you're trying to gain some scale at the early phases, right,
yes.
Cindy?
And David, let me tell you this. I've been told by those with investor relationships that investors are going to love this concept. They're going to love my story. They're going to love me. That I just need to bootstrap it and then make sure they love my team.
Well, how much capital are you trying to raise initially?
Well,
Cindy?
I need the community to invest. If we just get the businesses group, this will scale up very quickly. That 10% that would go to an investor, I want to give that back to the community. I want to be an L3C, and I want to help businesses get going. I want to make a difference where that we have more business owners, more than 10% that I've heard all my life. I want to hear that we have a lot more business owners that are thriving.
Well, we need more. We don't need more employees in Chattanooga. We need more owners. We don't need people just to work for others. We need the people for whom they work.
Yes.
We need more owners, not more employees. And this is David Tulis. Cindy Deering, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, David.
This is David Tulis, and we're here at 92.7 FM and 1240 AM Nooga Radio, the only and the one here in Chattanooga, Nooga Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com, Chattanooga's premier house buyer. Do you have a house you need to sell fast? We are buying. Call us today. We are local folks. We will buy your house as is, no repairs needed. We will give you a cash offer and close on the day of your choice. Call us right now, 423-834-7321. Need to sell a house fast? We are buying. Are you experiencing one of these situations? Inherited a house you have no need for? Behind on your property taxes? Nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Too many repairs needed and don't have a desire to fix? Behind on payments and facing foreclosure? Recently divorced and need a way out of the house? Never really wanted to be a landlord and just want to cash out? Trying to relocate and need to sell your house? Do you need to sell a house fast? We are buying. No fees, no hassles, no repair costs. Close on the day of your choice. Our process is simple. Call us today. We inspect your property right away. We make you a fair cash offer. We close on the day of your choice. Call us today, 423-834-7321. Visit our website, iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. Call us today, 423-834-7321. iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today.
Here comes the bride, here comes the bride. She's walking down the street.
And she's wearing a stunning diamond ring that's a fraction of the cost that her man would have paid at one of those overpriced mall jewelry stores. Rick Davis has a plethora on quality diamonds and gold rings, and he wants to pass the savings on to you. Did I say plethora? How about overabundance? That's right, an overabundance of gold and diamonds. So before you decide to get crazy and pay full retail on an overpriced piece of jewelry from one of those cookie cutter mall jewelry stores, come on out and see Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Top quality gold and diamonds at a fraction of the cost. Enter marital bliss with an engagement and wedding ring from Rick Davis. Hey, he'll also buy your gold and diamonds with cash, and more cash. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And there goes another happy bride.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, David Tulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
Charge! Get back there, you dang Yankee! Great horny toads, I'm up north. Gotta burn my boots, they touched Yankee soil. Lay down your arms and step forward, Yankee!
What's the hassle, schmassel?
My orders from General Lee is to hold the Macy-Dixie line, and no Yankees are crossing it.
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga,
WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani.
My God, what are you doing?
The outrage over a bloody passenger being dragged from a United Airlines flight and other untoward incidents are getting an airing at a hearing on Capitol Hill. House Transportation Committee Chairman Bill Schuster.
This won't be a pleasant hearing for the witnesses today, but I want it to be constructive. And I want to stress that this needs to be constructive. We need to come out of here with a better understanding from this committee on how the airlines operate.
How the airlines operate when they bump passengers from an overbooked flight or have to resolve a dispute may be about to change.
A number of bills are being discussed as possible legislation to better protect flyers because of some of these issues. Certainly, overbooking is going to be something you'll hear talked about a lot.
CBS News transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleef tells us airlines will point out that passenger complaints are down and customer satisfaction is up. President Trump's schedule includes an early afternoon phone call with Vladimir Putin. The president has called Putin a strong leader, but differences over the war in Syria and Russian interference in the presidential election have strained relations between Washington and Moscow. The White House may have been a little too optimistic when it said the House could pass a Republican health care bill this week. CBS News correspondent Nancy Cordes.
Republican leaders can only afford to lose 22 of their own members, and 20 have already confirmed to CBS News that they are against the current version of the health care bill, and there are many more who are still undecided.
May Day was peaceful in most of the country, but not in a number of cities on the West Coast. In Portland, police used tear gas and stun grenades to break up a riot. Protesters and rampaging bystanders got into it in Olympia, Washington. Police Chief Ronnie Roberts.
We have confiscated a number of items, including slingshots, pipes, rocks, backpacks.
There were other incidents in Seattle and Oakland. Hospitals are doing what they can to prevent addiction to opioid painkillers. CBS's Vicki Barker has the latest on that.
With an estimated 2 million Americans addicted, with 91 deaths a day, and with many addictions beginning during a hospital stay, more and more hospitals have stopped prescribing opioids first and now only use them as a last resort. But that carries its own challenges because there's no one single source of non-addictive pain relief, so solutions need to be tailored to the individual patient, adding more time and expense to already overburdened systems. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
On Broadway, this year's Tony Award nominations are out, and the hit musical Natasha, Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812 leads the pack with an even dozen.
There's a war going on out there somewhere, and Andre is...
The Bette Midler revival of Hello, Dolly snared 10 nominations. In early Wall Street trading, the Dow Industrials are up 10 points. This is CBS News.
Consult your tax professional before investing. Let me ask you a question. Can you keep your 401k or IRA safe from the death of the dollar, continued rampant Fed spending, political corruption, and from the possible new Cold War with Russia? If you answered no, then listen up. We are Advantage Gold, the #1 rated gold IRA company in America by TrustLink. Fortunes are going to be made and lost over the next few months. It's time you took action. Over 50,000 people have requested our gold IRA investment guide to learn how to protect their retirement savings. Now it's your turn. Right now, we are giving away a free copy of our new gold IRA protection guide to anyone with an IRA, 401k, or retirement account. Find out how quick and easy it can be to convert your retirement fund to gold. Just call 1-800-900-8000 right now, and we will help teach you how to keep your retirement savings away from the government and safe in your pocket. Just call today at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Representatives are standing by. Call 800-900-8000.
Life goes on in television land and at the movies. CBS News correspondent Steve Futterman has the story from Los Angeles.
It is day 102 of the Trump presidency.
Stephen Colbert can breathe a sigh of relief this morning.
But who's counting?
His comedy writers will report to work today. Negotiators for the Writers Guild and producers went past the midnight deadline, but they did reach an agreement. The deal must still be approved by the Writers Guild membership. The tentative agreement averts the first writer's strike since 2007. Steve Futterman, CBS News, Los Angeles.
A study by the American Press Institute finds that a slight majority of the American public is still willing to pay for the news through subscriptions or apps or by donating to public media. Institute Executive Director Tom Rosenstiel says the notion that people don't want to pay for news is not true. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. The Hickson man says he came home and discovered two men trying to steal his TV. Javars Crutcher admitted to robbing another man's house with a juvenile who broke in through the sliding glass door in the rear, and the homeowner caught them in the act. Crutcher, who's 23, has been charged with aggravated robbery. A body that was found 4 weeks into its decomposition has been identified as belonging to Amy Cantrell, who's 49. A man found her body on Lookout Mountain while out hunting. Despite being missing for 4 weeks, she was not reported as missing to authorities. Her car was found on private property and was towed about 1 mile from where her body was found. Medical examiners trying to determine the cause of death. The National Park Service has confirmed the body of Jackson Stanford, the missing Macaulay kid, has been found in the Colorado River near the Grand Canyon. A 4-year-old child started a duplex fire by playing with a cigarette lighter in her bedroom on Jeffrey Lane. The fire department is going to rule the cause of the fire as accidental. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect lots of sunshine and great-looking weather for your Tuesday. After this cool start, highs later on back into the upper 70s. Tonight, clear, comfortable again, lows 50 to 53. Now for your Wednesday, morning sunshine, warmer highs 80 to 83 with scattered showers and storms returning Thursday. No matter what home improvements you're working on, start with Lowe's. For great prices on everything for your lawn, garden, or kitchen and bath improvements, all projects have a starting point. Start with your neighborhood Lowe's. And I'm Swarsheen 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
The young men in the car were moving forward when one of the boys saw some smoke come out of the head of his friend Jordan Edwards. And they didn't realize that he had been hit by a police bullet. And the story out of Balk Springs, Texas, is the initial story was that the car containing these young men was backing up aggressively toward the officer. Well, the video showed quickly that that wasn't the case at all. The officer with a rifle fired into a car and hit a young man very well spoken of by his friends. The car was moving forward. The police department of Balk Springs said Sunday that the officer, whose name was not released, fired on a car carrying teenager Jordan Edwards, a freshman at Mesquite High School, because the car was reversing down a street toward the officer in a, quote, aggressive manner. But the chief of police then said, well, this was Monday, that the video showed the opposite. And he said the officer fired when the car was moving forward as the officers approached. In other words, it was fleeing, right? A fleeing car. And the officer with a rifle, probably a .223 caliber military round, hit this young man in the head, and smoke some seconds later, it was coming from it, from the round. A bullet's very hot when it's fired. And so when it enters the flesh, it burns as well as clears a path through the flesh of the cranial material of this young man, in whose head there will be no more grand thoughts, no more hopes, no more common longings of the kind that you remember feeling when you were in the back seat with friends in a car. And you hear the popping sounds outside. You think someone's setting off some fireworks, but your friend there is already deceased. Lee Merritt, a lawyer for the Edwards family, praised the chief for his willingness to admit what the New York Times calls a mistake, saying the new account is a big deal. There were no weapons involved. There was no aggressive behavior. There were no suspects, he says in a telephone interview. The lone motive they had for the murder was that the vehicle was being used as a weapon, and now that is no longer there. Jordan was a popular football player, and he had just left a party Saturday night with a group of friends. There was a 911 call to the area, a complaint about some drunken young people, and an officer with his long gun in possession fired into a car with lethal accuracy. He was a good student who was very well liked by his teachers, coaches, and fellow students. Now, the officer is being given a chance to decompress. Now, those are union rules that let officers escape inquiry. No other suspect in a murder can have a decompression time, but a police officer can have one that can go for weeks. I'm not sure in Chattanooga how long that is, but he can be freed from any interrogation by anybody for some time, and that allows the police department to come up with the story, right? To get everybody's story organized to be consistent, because it is inconsistencies which the sharp-eyed, hawkish media in that town, as in this one, will notice and then start asking questions. So you want to have a complete and comprehensive narrative. This is David Tulis, and we are here at AM 1240 and FM 92.7 Nooga Radio. And it's this kind of prevarication that we have had in Chattanooga. And we have city employees who carry guns and are able to shoot people, statutorily permitted to shoot people to death. They're allowed to do that, and they can do that with qualified immunity. And that is because they wear uniforms which make them, in their very presence, a first step in the continuum of force, as it's called. Your very presence in uniform with their bald heads and their armor and their weapons, their tasers, their ammo clips, they are threat they are force, and they're in Chattanooga today and in municipal governments elsewhere, enforcing statute and able to execute people. They can execute them in a statutorily permitted way. It is extrajudicial, and it is summary. And that's what happened here in Texas. And Jordan Edwards, who's black, by the way, is dead. How is it that we as a civilized people allow city employees to put on special uniforms and special insignia and then have the authority to kill people, executing them, applying capital punishment to them, people who have done nothing worthy of death? How is it that not responding to an officer is worthy of death? How is it that anything like that brings the death penalty? 1,000 people last year were killed by police. 1,000 Americans killed by police. You, my listener, are more likely to be killed by an officer if you're a fine municipality than you are by a Muslim jihadist. Probably 7, 10, 15 times more likely, depending on the source of the comparison. And I'm concerned for local economy and the free market. I'm concerned because as long as we have this threat that should be protected against by the sheriff's department, as long as we have this threat by municipal corporations using these paramilitary law enforcement organizations, we will not have a general prosperity. I think we need to find a way to use the sharing economy. The sharing economy of the kind that the solar field represents, right? The sharing economy of the kind that Cindy Deering, Cindy's Choice represents, that Uber represents. This is the kind of sharing economy using apps, right? Using apps for people in distress. If there is a crime, there need not be 500 armed policemen in Chattanooga to rush after the perpetrator. People have smartphones, right? People have telephones. These signals run faster than any officer and his legs can carry him, or his 4 tires on his cruiser can bring him to the scene of the offense. We have people today who are in the media because they have smartphones. In fact, that is our theme here at Nooga Radio. You report and the world decides. You report with your smartphone directly to us or to Nooganomics, and the world decides. That is to say, the world of the listener and the viewer. This is David Tulis, and I cover local economy and the free markets at Nooganomics.com. That's Nooganomics.com. And also, you can find more about Tennessee goings-on at TennesseeStar.com, a new conservative, free market-oriented media platform. That's TennesseeStar.com. I plan to be contributing writer to that organization. And already you can find out about how I stood firm for you, my listener, a couple of weeks ago at the county clerk's office. The county clerk's officials forbade me as a member of the public to make a video in the area, the standing area for tag and title. There were about 30 to 40 people there, between 20 and 35 people there that Thursday afternoon. And I said, I was just going to sending myself up to make my Facebook presentation at Nooga Radio on Facebook, which, by the way, please make sure you like Nooga Radio. Go out of your way now. Like Nooga Radio on Facebook. And I was prohibited from doing so by the officer and the woman in charge of the office at the time, Bill Knowles, not being present. And I said, well, I plan to make a video here. I've got every right to do that, and you can't stop me. And I asked them, I said, are you willing to arrest me if I begin my process using my equipment? And very gracious conversation with the operations manager, Jim Lawrence, there. And finally, it was determined that if there was any offense to be given, to be caused by me as a member of the public representing you, my listener, right? It would be done, it would be handled, the danger averted to the public by an announcement by the woman in charge of the office. And she declared, may I have your attention? May I have your attention? A member of the media wants to make a presentation on his video here in the office. If you don't wish to appear in his video, please turn your head, turn your face. And that settled it. I made my presentation and was off. And you can read about that at Chattanooga, at Nooganomics.com. And also, perhaps more importantly, you can read the details at TennesseeStar.com. And Bill Knowles' office did a fine job dealing with me. I respect what happened, and I appreciate the courteous way in which I was treated, I was not going to give in. And so the officials complied with my constitutional demands, agreed that I had a right to do that, representing you, right? I was representing every person in that room. I said, I represent all these people out here. I have no less rights than they do. I, as a member of the press, have no fewer rights than the people waiting in line to get their tags renewed. Any one of them could have whipped out a smartphone at that moment and made a video, I said. Are you going to arrest them? I have no fewer rights, no less rights than they. So I representing you, actually being beneath you, right? I stood your ground for you, and you can read about that at TennesseeStar.com. Now, we have a lot to get to, and the question of rights and the question of summary executions, I think, is important. And we have officials who, because they are used to authority, I would say often lawlessly used, they're used to having it, they are not careful for human life, and people are ending up dead. There's a great conservative hero, a right-wing hero, David Clark, sheriff of Milwaukee County. He's a murderer, because in his jail, there died Terrell Thomas, an inmate whom you've already heard about his case. He died of dehydration. He went a week without water. A man with a mental condition died in a jail in Milwaukee without water. He was fed, but the meals at that jail are not given any drink. So he had food he couldn't eat and no liquid sustenance. And a jury inquest, according to the New York Times, began April 24, exactly a year after Mr. Thomas, 38, was found dead in his cell, murdered by the sheriff of that county. Prosecutors and Mr. Hype say that corrections officers turned off the water supply to Mr. Thomas's isolation cell last April. Mr. Thomas, who had bipolar disorder and needed mental health treatment, was unable to advocate for himself, though other inmates told corrections officers he needed water. He also refused to eat the jail-provided meals, the story says, which were served without drinks, and lost 30 pounds. Mr. Hyped is the attorney, Eric Hyped, representing his estate. Well, why do we not have people who care? I think the reason we have lack of care is because we have lack of personal connection. And that's why I argue for small being better than big. If you have a big sheriff's department, you're going to have abuses like this. If you have a small sheriff's department, it's much less likely. It's much more likely to be humane. Our country is dysfunctional. In fact, Ron Paul says that we are on our welfare warfare state is on the verge of collapse. It's on the verge of collapse. It cannot be governed anymore. Look at these continuing resolutions that last for a week. It can't last anymore. In that coming disaster, in the coming recognition of its incompetence, of its having sucked the life out of the nation and out of its people, in that collapse, in that recognition, there will be growing hatred. But you know what we need to do is not hate the good people. We need to not hate them. Because if we do, we will not have the energy needed for rebuilding and reconstruction. In other words, the building of a local civilization, a local independent city-state, which I think David Crockett is right to advocate for. He is the only political figure in the Chattanooga area. He is, I would say, Dave Crockett, the statesman of Chattanooga and Hamilton County. There is none like him by compare. Andy Burke, the mayor, hardly a statesman at all, hardly worth even thinking about. Andy Burke, the mayor, who defeated handsomely Dave Crockett. Ron Paul says that we are at an end, and because there is what he calls hyper interventionism by the Federal Reserve System, the system of making money that owns the government and really regulates and empowers the deep state and makes prosperity locally very, very difficult. And that is because that system allows capitalists and investors near the spigot to gain access to credit much more cheaply than anybody here can. And so these people buy up productive assets. Look at all the apartment complexes that have been bought up by out-of-town strangers, right? People who own lands now, and they live off the revenue stream. They were able to buy these income-producing assets, and you could not. Though you might be a rich man, could not do that. We need to have local solutions. We need to have mercy. And I think we need to have a restoration of constitutional government. Constitutional government implies a belief in the rule of law. The rule of law is not we can do what we want because we have the courts on our side and we have judges on our side. The state always has the court on its side. It seems to me, especially now that Republicans in the face of Bill Haslam can name the appellate court judges, right? All you get as a voter is yay or nay. We don't have open elections for judges anymore. The Republican establishment stole the right from the people in the recent constitutional plebiscite, about which you, my listener, knew about, and you knew the right thing. You knew good and well because you tuned in here to the David Tulis show about this theft by the state, the theft by the executive branch in Tennessee of your right to select judges. This whole system is working against you. It's working against free markets. It's working against local economy, and it's working against sound government. There's a prayer event coming up tomorrow. Well, let's see. No, coming up Thursday. It's Tuesday today. It's called Pray Chattanooga. It's overseen by some devout Christian men in the parachurch world. Not they may be ordained, but they are in the world of parachurches that do the work. It would seem they claim of the gospel church, the government of Christ. The event is at 6 p.m. at Chattanooga Christian School. The man I spoke to most recently about it is Roger Helly, who oversees Teen Challenge here in the Chattanooga area. Has been the executive director here for 23 years and almost 40 years altogether with that Christian organization helping people with addiction. That is a prayer event, part of the National Day of Prayer here in Chattanooga, where Christian people talk to God. They make petitions to God on behalf of the nation, on behalf of their state even, and their cities. My questions have been to the organizers, are there specific things that we need to pray about? If you're a practicing Christian, what can we be specific? Can we pray, for example, about civil asset forfeiture, the state highwayman program, and many other things as well, such as the public schools, war on morality and independence, and the skimming of the poor through the state lottery system, and the state's rejection of marriage. Tennessee rejects marriage. It rejects marriage. It has on the statute definitions of marriage. It has a large body of common law rulings understanding marriage to be between one man and one woman, and yet it capitulated through its political establishment that dares make no offense to the Yankees in Washington and New York, and we accept Obergefell versus Hodges 2015. Should Christians pray about that? Is that something that enters into the scope of their conversation with God? Perhaps among some of them, it does. Do you know that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than domestic people and citizens? There's a report on the Hill web publication that says that according to two studies, one by the Libertarian Cato Institute and one by the Sentencing Project, which does criminal justice research and lobbying, the latter group found that foreign-born residents of the United States commit crimes far less often than native-born citizens. And the Cato study said all immigrants are less likely to be incarcerated than natives relative to their shares of the population. And that's a very interesting analysis, one that I'm not surprised by, but one that perhaps should be considered more fairly, more justly by the so-called right, your conservatives who agree with Donald Trump, at least agree with his campaign rhetoric. We are brought to you by Window Depot of Chattanooga. David Tulis here, windowdepotchattanooga.com online, and also by Boyd Speedway. I argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. Franklin Graham is going to be in Chattanooga on the 15th of May, and he is a defender of Christendom, and he today makes note of a New York Times report about the Methodist Church's High Court rejecting the consecration of an openly lug-butt bishop. He says, congratulations to the United Methodist Church for making the right decision this week. It was a 6-3 vote, and regarded a married lesbian bishop and those who consecrated her. They were found to have been in violation of church law, and to have acted against the church's stand on marriage and homosexuality. Franklin Graham says, I hope that more churches will see the wisdom of upholding the Word of God, the Bible, no matter how unpopular or politically incorrect it may seem within their ranks. We cannot condone what God defines as sin. We should love the sinner, he says, pray for them and encourage them in God's truth. But we can never condone what God calls sin. There is also just a detail: the Haslam administration is not going to argue for a provision in the existing statute that requires abortionists to be able to have access to hospitals, hospital admitting privileges, as they're called. And it is no longer going to argue that hospitals meet surgical standards, or hospital level surgical standards. In other words, they can kill children in a less than surgically uniform and proper way in Tennessee. And Tennessee, by the way, Tennessee moms destroyed 9,113 babies, boys and girls, in 2015. In Chattanooga, Hamilton County, 151 women had their children destroyed in clinics in Nashville, Tri-Cities, and Huntsville and elsewhere. David Tulis here at Nooga Radio. Pro-life, pro-solar.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. The Hickson man says he came home and discovered two men trying to steal his TV. Javar's Crutcher admitted to robbing another man's house with a juvenile who broke in through the sliding glass door in the rear, and the homeowner caught them in the act. Crutcher, who's 23, has been charged with aggravated robbery. A body that was found 4 weeks into its decomposition has been identified as belonging to Amy Cantrell, who's 49. A man found her body on Lookout Mountain while out hunting. Despite being missing for 4 weeks, she was not reported as missing to authorities. Her car was found on private property and was towed about 1 mile from where her body was found. Medical examiners trying to determine the cause of death. The National Park Service has confirmed the body of Jackson Stanford, the missing Macaulay kid, has been found in the Colorado River near the Grand Canyon. A 4-year-old child started a duplex fire by playing with a cigarette lighter in her bedroom on Jeffrey Lane. The fire department is going to rule the cause of the fire as accidental. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect lots of sunshine and great-looking weather for your Tuesday. After this cool start, highs later on back into the upper 70s. Tonight, clear, comfortable again, lows 50 to 53. Now for your Wednesday, morning sunshine, warmer highs 80 to 83 with scattered showers and storms returning Thursday. No matter what home improvements you're working on, start with Lowe's. For great prices on everything for your lawn, garden, or kitchen and bath improvements, all projects have a starting point. Start with your neighborhood Lowe's. And I'm Swarsheen 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Window Depot of Chattanooga. They're locally owned and operated and been around since 2008. Installing top-quality vinyl replacement windows. You get the best price and service in the area. Top-quality double pane, energy-efficient windows. They look great and save you money.
Oh, I love to save money.
You'll also save money on your heating and cooling costs. Call 894-0011. 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Sales and installation professionals. You'll get a fantastic job while helping to enhance the value, appearance, comfort, and efficiency of your most valuable asset, your home. Other window providers? No way. Window Depot Chattanooga's windows qualify for the TVA rebate. Sliding doors, gutters, soffits, fascia, garage doors, and other home improvements. If you want to save a ton, call 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Window Depot of Chattanooga. Sales and installation professionals.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today. Caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us, Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me, Action Rentals.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chops him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
Under President Obama, solar kind of got a bad name as part of cartel capitalism, where the Solyndras, the big capitalists with their risky factories, risky projects, unproven brands, unproven models got federal money and then went belly up. But the picture in solar is not all that bleak, and we are thinking about the sun every day. We are very much for the sun, and I say that because there are continual efforts, it seems, by visual data to suppress the sun and reduce its impact, if you will, its great force and benefit on the surface of the earth. Where if we have a lot of it, we have more photosynthesis. If we have less of it, we have hazy skies, cloudy skies, jet streaking white trails across it, and we have a loss of power. Well, not from storms, but we have loss of power from solar panels that soak up the sun and convert it in their little. Ginny Kincer, what is the device called where solar energy is converted to electrical power?
It's going to be an inverter.
The inverter. Oh, thank you. The inverter there, and so we are talking with Ginny Kincer of Tennessee Solar Solutions about that industry. Tennessee Solar Solutions has been here for 10 years in Chattanooga, serving customers, commercial and residential customers. Had 20 people work there, and they are all about soaking up the sun and converting that into energy, which has no fumes, no waste product. Is that the main advantage of solar, Ginny, that there's no waste product?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's good to be back. I appreciate that. One of the main things about going solar that's amazing, is that you're reducing your carbon footprint. The other thing is that you are actually generating power for your property. That's a huge thing. You told me to bring something for show and tell. So here I did for everyone that's watching us on live. That's my power bill, folks.
Okay, we're live on Facebook and live on YouTube. What are we seeing? What does it say?
That is my power bill. It says "Do not pay." That's actually a copy of my power bill. It's made its rounds, but that's as of this April.
Do not pay. You have a credit for $7.25.
Yeah, that's just a start.
Now, why is it that you're not paying? Don't you use some EPB power for some parts of your business?
Sure,
Ginny Kincer.
Absolutely, I sure do. Especially during times, guess what? When the sun's not out, like at night. But I produce more energy through my solar energy system installed by Tennessee Solar. That's how I got started. I was a client before I started to work for the company. And then I use from EPB. So I have a dual metered system. One basically keeps track of my energy usage. The other keeps track of my energy production. And I'm in the red or the black each month. And at the end of the year, they'll issue you a check for your credit. Or more importantly, you can roll that over to the next year, start with a credit, and you don't have to claim that as income or pay taxes on that.
So solar solution customers, whether residential or commercial, produce energy, and sometimes they have too much. EPB is glad to have this energy. Is there any problem there? Is there any pushback? You're using our equipment, you're using our grid, and not paying your fair share. Is there anything like that going on in Tennessee, Ginny Kincer?
So basically, through TVA, through a program called the Green Power Provider Program, you can find this on TVA.org, this information. You are actually selling your power through your local power company back to TVA at the same rate in which you're currently paying for it in your area. So there is no pushback. You are basically changing your relationship with your property, okay, and your power company to be, instead of a supplier of energy, a distributor of your energy, because you're creating your own energy.
So TVA has a marketing interest in being green, being solar, even though elsewhere in other jurisdictions, Kenny, utilities have sort of said, well, it's not fair. It's not fair that we have huge investments in power lines and towers, and you're using that to distribute energy and not paying a fee. So that's not here, because TVA wants to have that glowing image of the benefactor.
They get a lot of
Tennessee Valley.
Well, they get a lot of benefits from it. They also are able to, when you are on the Green Power Provider Program, they're also able to keep the SRECs, the renewable energy credits. They can trade them on the open market. They also have part of their energy portfolio is solar. So it's just a matter of where they're getting their energy so they can redistribute it. There is another program called Dispersed Power Program, and that's where you're actually doing what they call a load side connection. So your property, your business, your agricultural farm is able to use that electricity first and also maintain those SRECs, as well as advertise that you are a green business. This is super important for our large manufacturing clients, for those that are getting energy demand costs. So they're extra costs put on top of your bill because during peak hours you get a demand charge. That's what we do. We go in, we assess that and say, how can you be a better steward of your finances by using solar energy, which is free? And so the company that faces these, my listener who doesn't run a big factory doesn't have that charge, right? This is for big users of energy. It can, right? I mean, just even a small manufacturing, facility. There's a lot of customers that are seeing these demand charges on their power bills all over the state of Tennessee and the Southeast where we serve.
And so solar lets that manufacturer have a way of avoiding drawing the peak, drawing energy from EPB or the distributor from TVA by having solar. But does not that energy have to be stored in a battery somehow if that peak demand hour is, say, in the evening when there's less sun?
You can.
When does it happen?
Yes, absolutely. That is an option. You're right. That's an option. You can use battery storage to store that energy that you're actually generating during the day, and then you can use it when you need it the most. Absolutely, that is totally possible. But if you don't, you would just be producing more energy during the peak times of the day that you're using the energy, and then you would hopefully produce more based on the system size that we would think is the best size approach when we design, install, and maintain your system, as well as on the back end, you would be losing less. So we look at the whole encompassing, annual usage. We don't just kind of pick 1 month and say, let's go for it. There's a lot of folks out there that'll do that, but that's why it's important as a general contractor, electrical contractor, full NABCEP certification in the industry that governs looks over, make sure we got all our I's dotted and our T's crossed. We take all that into consideration.
Now, your business, Tennessee Solar Solutions, Ginny Kincer, is involved in batteries as well. Is that part of the package that some investors buy?
Yeah, we love off-grid systems. We're one of the only few in the Tennessee Valley area that will do off-grid design. That means a standalone system, off-grid. There's a lot of ways people refer to these systems, but it's important to remember that once you go with a standalone off-grid system, your dependency on your electrical power company is a big fat zero, okay? You are your own energy producing property, farm, business.
Well, we here at Nooga Radio, Ginny Kincer, like the idea of decentralization. We like the idea of being people being liquid, of being independent, not relying on large external systems that are hazardous, maybe vulnerable to disruption, especially if they're very large and they're not as elastic as they were when they were in their youth. They're sclerotic and fixed and not maybe secure. What kind of investment is involved, say, for my listener who has a house? He has, let's say he has 5 children in his house and rooms for each of them. And he has not too many trees right near his building. What kind of investment does it make, and what kind of return on investment can he expect?
Those are all great questions that we deal with every day. So I'm glad we're talking about them. One of the biggest things that we would ask is let's look at your energy demand for that property. That's a real big concern, because every single property is different. You might have 5 kids that are really conscientious about their energy usage, or you might not. I mean, it just happens to be that way. But when we go through the process, we try to give you a free estimate on the front end. When we're talking about a grid tie system, when we're talking about a hybrid system, which means you have some generation you're using from the grid, meaning your local power company, and you're having what we call a plan B, a generator, a battery, some type of storage, or your completely standalone system. All of those fall into different categories. They can be anywhere from a minimum investment of $15,000 to $25,000. We can get all the way up to $100,000+ depending on the size of the energy demand you have, what your options are, what your motivations and your goals. I got a photo here that we can show up as well. And that house on the very top also has a standalone system. It has some off-grid capability, a generator, batteries. It's a beautiful property, just like the one you talked about, having no trees around it. He does have several children living at home, probably more conscientious about his energy usage with that investment on his home now, I can tell you. But, I mean, he's living the dream, energy independent.
Well, a residential setup, let's say that's not entirely independent but has some exchange with EPB. What is the return on investment? In other words, when does the money spent on upfront on putting the system in pay for itself in that first dollar, which is, you might say, the profit? How long does that take to get that profit?
Sure. We give an estimate depending on the size of the system, meaning how much your offset you're going to be, 100%, 50%, 25%. You're looking anywhere from 7 to 12 years, which honestly, you're investing in your property, you're adding value to your property. And all intents and purposes, solar will pay for itself at least twice within the lifetime of a contract with TVA, meaning 20 years. And you're also thinking about warranty. I don't know if you're going to go there next.
No, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. How long do solar panels last?
Sure. So
Do they wear out?
So a lot of our manufacturers will warranty efficiency ratings for 25 years. That's super important. But I will tell you that a lot of these systems are going to last a lot longer. In fact, the first module ever produced in the early 50s by the Bell Company, you might recognize last name Bell, Alexander Graham Bell. He's kind of into electricity. Actually is still producing energy today. Not, I'll be honest, not at the efficiency level it did back in the day, but still producing. So this technology, whether it's new to most people, is not really a new technology. We're just becoming more aware of it. And that's really one of our biggest goals, is to be an educator about what we do at Tennessee Solar Solutions.
So an investor, or let's say a homeowner who has panels for 20 years, the efficiency has gone down to 70%, down to 60% over the years. And at some point, maybe 30 years out, it's down at 50%. That he could still justify not replacing them if he's getting some energy from it. So it really is up to the owner to determine whether it's a better investment to keep what he has or install new panels.
Absolutely. And we can do meter readings on that, but you at least have 25 good years in you.
Well, talk a bit about the growth of your business. You're 10 years old. You're celebrating a decade in service to, I guess, the Southeast, right?
Yeah.
How has business gone? Was there a bad time in the solar field? And how would you rate where we are today under President Trump with the new administration? How do you see him in your business?
Sure.
Ginny?
Well, I mean, 10 years and it being a decade, we're literally one of the oldest solar energy companies in the state of Tennessee. That's super important because we're just a very passionate group of folks. Started out with an army of one. Anthony Roden started this company in 2007. And from there, it's just taken off, to be honest. In the last 2 years, we've installed thousands of systems, whether they're commercial, agricultural, or residential. Like I said before, that's how I met these guys at Tennessee Solar. I was a client looking to go solar, my husband and I, and we decided to go with Tennessee Solar based on that experience.
Are you living in the same house in which you installed the unit?
Yeah, that house right there with all the people on the roof. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, that's my house, actually. We did a Million Solar Strong event, and we celebrated with going on top of the roof and getting a great shot with our drone. The current administration, I mean, the picks for the Department of Energy head and EPA, you know what? They probably wouldn't be our first choice, but we're going to try to work with them as best we can. I know that people need to get their feet under them. So we're just over 100 days. So when counting.
If my listener is a taxpayer in the federal system, Ginny Kincer of Solar Solutions, is there any kind of chit or benefit for having an investment in solar? Is there some kind of credit or delayed tax?
Sure. There is a 30% federal tax credit. Obviously not a reimbursement, but it's a credit. So if you owe taxes to the federal government, you will receive 30% back off the total project cost of your system.
And you can take that every year, some amount every year, or how does that work?
So if you can absorb it all in the first year, you're golden. If you can't, then you can roll it over. This was passed during the last administration, passed unanimously through the omnibus bill 2 years ago at the end of the session, right before they left for Christmas. It will, and no pun intended, sunset at some point, but it'll dramatically go down throughout the years. It is an incentive, obviously, but it's not subsidized.
Well, I think that's important because my listener is a man of principle, and he would rather not. He's worried about having the favor of Uncle Sam. Well, how is it, Ginny Kincer, that solar is part of the movement toward decentralization? We have that trend in many industries, in the media, in the hotel field, and with Airbnb, and the taxi business, of course, a regulated business that favors cartels and favors existing companies. You have Uber and Lyft overturning that model. What about solar? How far can solar go in decentralization in the very highly centralized grid, the national energy sector? Is there any chance of it at some point being replaced? I mean, is that 100 years out, or what are the prospects for decentralized energy production?
Sure. Well, I mean, solar is the fastest growing industry in the nation right now. And here in Tennessee, we've seen prices go down over 60% just here in Tennessee in the last 5 years. So it's certainly becoming a mainstream opportunity for folks. Whether you're building a home, we're seeing a lot of new construction right now. I mean, the market's really opened itself up to build the home of your dreams. Why not power that home with something you can harness for free from the sun and build yourself your own energy power plant right there on your property or your business? So, I mean, as far as decentralization, I think that we've got a little bit ways to go as far as that goes. I mean, we do live in the Tennessee Valley area, which is a good area to be in. Power is one of the least expensive in the area nationwide. So we are lucky for that. But you do have options. And that's what we're about, is literally empowering people on the properties that they own.
In some parts of the country, Ginny, there are disputes over solar and the use of solar. What are those disputes about? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Is there a property rights issue that solar advocates are a part of?
Sure. I mean, solar is a property rights issue. There are some places throughout the United States that people aren't looking favorably on it because they see it as a threat to their standard daily business. It's taking money away taking jobs away from power companies or those, going out and reading your meter of some sort. This is not the case. Solar power is not a threat. It is just a redistribution, literally, of your relationship with your power company. There's still a need for all of those power companies out there because as a homeowner having solar energy on it, I'm not going to be able to tell you where that power needs to go. So the power company's not going anywhere. But it is your right. It is your right to know that you can walk into a property, purchase it, and be energy independent.
There's a dispute, Ginny, in Bedford, Massachusetts, that the Unitarian Universalist Church says it has a religious and spiritual interest in solar, and it was denied a certificate of appropriateness to install panels on its meeting house earlier last year. And so it sued, and it says that that it has that the decision to deny the use of panels was arbitrary and capricious, legally untenable, and violated the rights of the members of the first parish to the free exercise of their religious beliefs. And so there you have some officials saying, well, we just can't have that, and we're not going to allow it. So we do have some litigation favoring solar and the rights of property. This is my property. I'm going to do what I need. That's an innocent and harmless activity, and you can't stop me, please.
And note to self: you are actually bettering the environment, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you, which is kind of like a no-brainer, really.
Well, how good is Tennessee for the sun, for the use of the sun? I know there's I read a story this morning about Alaska. Is Alaska, it was a trade publication, is Alaska okay for solar? Some places you might think would not be if they have like long winter evenings or things toward the North Pole. How is Tennessee for sun availability or sun density? What would you call that?
I mean, we base all of our analysis on about 4.5 hours of direct sunlight on an annual daily basis. We also take into consideration 40 years of weather data when we design our systems. I can tell you Tennessee is prime for solar. Most every place in the United States, unless you're in the deep forest where you have no sun, there's a lot of moss growing on the ground, there's shading, that's going to be your biggest restrictions.
So if you have a house that has a lot of trees right up against it, you have to debate, well, if I have solar, I'm going to have to pare these trees back, right?
Yeah, I mean, we work with arborists to make sure that the trees are healthy, that you're not looking at anything down the road, but more or less, we can give you an estimate.
Ginny, how can my listener find out more about Tennessee Solar Solutions or reach you?
Yeah, www.tennesseesolarsolutions.com. We'd love to have you visit our website, fill out a contact form, we'll get you a free estimate.
Ginny, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Solar is a great option for the independent-minded man, the independent-spirited family ownership, and Ginny is showing a zero EPB bill on account of her having solar panels on her and her husband's house. This is David Tulis. Thanks for joining us. Nooga Radio. That's Nooga Radio, brought to you by Nooganomics.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I've been a customer at SNS 14 years. It's way out of my way, but I'm well treated. I believe what I'm told. Price is reasonable. David Tulis here. Make an SNS appointment today. This week, get $50 off any 30,000-mile service or timing belt repair. And get a free combat knife as a gift. SNS Auto Repair specializes in Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. 6-time winner of Best of the Best award in the Times Free Press. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's